Welcome. Tonight is Monday, June 28th, 2021. It is 7 o'clock p.m. This is the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter. We will call the meeting to order. Would all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone should have a copy of the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Emily will so move.
Ed'll second.
Emily, well, I don't have to do that anymore, do I?
Just think.
All right, thank you. For those of you that are here, this is our first meeting in person in about a year or so, whatever it is. So a little tough to get used to. All in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next up, we have the minutes from our June 14th, 2021 meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 4 through 6. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second?
All in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next up, we will address visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Mr. Lambert, come on up and have a chair. And I know you indicated to me you didn't have much to say, or time-wise didn't have a lot, but if I could get you to give me your name, home address, and if you can keep your comments to within 5 minutes, that'd be great.
Won't be a problem. My name is Bob Lambert. I live at 36233 Fort Road, St. Peter. Appreciate being able to address the mayor and city council. I'm here representing several citizens, not to make any kind of a request, but simply to voice a concern. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A number of citizens of St. Peter have noticed that Council Member Bruflat chooses to remain seated and silent during the Pledge of Allegiance at your council meetings. Several of us have come here this evening to let you know of our disappointment in the decision of an elected member of our city council to show such disrespect for our flag and what we believe it stands for. While we all know that there have been many court decisions that have been upheld, that have upheld the right of any citizen to sit during the pledge, and we do not dispute that right, but we point out that if it wasn't for what that flag stands for, we wouldn't have that right or any other rights. We don't believe that by pledging allegiance to the flag that you are renouncing your faith or putting the flag ahead of your religion, but simply acknowledging that you support our country, the form of government that we have, a democracy, and that although our country is not perfect, we continue to try to correct the problems that we do have by electing representatives who will make the changes that the majority of the citizens believe are necessary. The pledge does not declare that we have attained liberty and justice for all, but it is a pledge to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The pledge is to the republic that stands for a nation that would have liberty and justice for all. That is what our democratic government and nation of laws continues to try to achieve. Our nation is not perfect, but we continue to work on it in a democratic fashion, such as the work you all do here every couple of weeks. Even though we don't expect Councilmember Bruflat to change her mind or showing respect to our flag, we simply wanted her and the rest of the City Council to know that there are many citizens who have noticed that she has said that she cannot recite the words that she does not believe to be true, and are extremely disappointed that she believes that the Pledge of Allegiance are empty words, and that this country does not have, nor has it ever had, liberty and justice for all. We strongly disagree with her opinion. We thank you for the ability to come here and express our opinion. That's all we have.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right. We will now move into our regular meeting. Once again, thanks everyone for coming. We do appreciate when people do show up, because otherwise we have a lot of times no idea that people are concerned about things. So thank you very much. Next up, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins in detail on page 7 and concludes with the resolution on pages 24 and 25, and includes following license renewals. Temporary gambling license for St. Peter Wrestling, 400 Union Street, for August 13th, 2021. All of these are going to be 2021 unless I note them. To Knights of Columbus for 400 Union Street for August 11th to August 15th. Church of St. Peter for 1801 Broadway for 9/19. Church of St. Peter for 1801 Broadway for 12/4. And the Church of St. Peter for 400 Union on March 19th, 2022. We have temporary on-sale liquor for Church of St. Peter for 1801 Broadway for September 19th. Church of St. Peter for 1801 Broadway for March 19th, 2022. Temporary soft drink license to Church of St. Peter for 1801 Broadway for September 19th. A temporary peddler permit to Elaine Hardwick, and evidently going street to street, for July 4th. And a fireworks permit to St. Peter Chamber of Commerce, 400 Union, for July 4th also. Plus the following modifications to the City Council liaison assignments. Because of an absence of one of our members, the Hospital and Nursing Home Commission for Mayor Zeman and Councilmember Ed Johnson. Housing and Redevelopment Authority to Mayor Zeman. Region 9 Development Commission to Brad DeVos as the mayor's designee in this case. The County Cooperative Committee for Council members Bruflat and Carey Johnson. Some of you were already on these, but these are what the totals will be. The following employee appointments are hereby approved. To Daniel Kozleski, for wastewater operator for $23.64 an hour. To Dylan Graft for wastewater operator for $22.23 an hour. Plus the regular schedule of disbursements for June 10th through June 23rd, 2021. Are there any questions, comments concerning the consent agenda? Brett.
Pete, on the wastewater operators for Dylan Graft, is there a timeline or a plan for him to become a licensed wastewater operator?
Yeah, please. Please, Pete.
Yes. Once Dylan starts employment, he will be able to submit his education and experience to the state to receive a date when he can begin certification.
Great.
Adam, on the other hand, has already been
Yep.
through schooling and is part of that program, so he's eligible and has already
Great.
tested.
Okay, just want to make sure that, like, long-term you weren't going to be in a bind in case you...
Nope, we are good. We've got a great top end right now, and that's why we can hire where we're hiring right now. We've got great people up at the top.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Not, the resolution for the consent agenda appears on pages 24 and 25. Is there a motion for approval? Ed will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or comments at this point? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember Carey Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have unfinished business, which we have done, so we'll move to new business. First item is the School District 508 Memorandum of Understanding. Todd.
Mayor, members, this is something that you see on an annual basis, and it's seen on an annual basis for now, well, a lot more than a decade, actually. And so this is a cooperative agreement that really started in an effort to work with the school district to counteract some funding challenges that were imposed by the state of Minnesota on community ed. And so the information that you see included in your packet describes the type of activities that we provide in place of the school district and receive funding from the school district for. I will mention that the funding over the last number of years has been stable, but I do write within the memo that there's a concern about a deterioration of funding. Not that that's happening this year or next year, but that's always a concern. You've taken on a project that was originally with the school district, and if funding deteriorates substantially and you have to stop providing those types of activities, you're now in a position of stopping activities that frankly you didn't start. And it's a little bit odd, but want to make sure that you understand that's in place, but the funding has been stable. We think that this is a great example of cooperative efforts between the city and the school district, and we take great care to make sure that we're putting that funding to good use, primarily from May through the end of August of each year. If you have any questions, Mayor and members, this is typically done 1 year at a time because of the funding itself. And so the nature of the agreement, and the agreement's included in your packet, we'd anticipate that the school district would undertake this at their next meeting as well.
Okay. Questions? Todd, and I know it's not in here, and I've just, you know, I sometimes wonder about this, especially in recent things that have happened. You know, it says for development, youth development.
Yep.
And classification-wise, where does the school resource officer fit in?
It does not fit into this. This is really driven by the recreation department and some of the programming that's designed over the summer months. So it's not a part of the SRO program.
Okay.
Nor does any funding from this go to the SRO program.
Okay. Refresh my memory, I'm off topic here a little bit. Refresh my memory, then how do they describe that if it's not a youth funding, or what do they call it?
Well, I don't have the document in front of me, but the document that we have for SRO really relates to provision of service and doesn't necessarily articulate that overarching goal of the service that's being provided at this time.
Okay. Any other questions? Not, the resolution authorizing execution of youth development memorandum of understanding appears on page 31. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have emergency declaration cancellation. Todd.
Mayor, members, at your last workshop, you discussed the potential for this to occur and asked that I put this on the agenda, so it is on your agenda. This would end the local emergency that was declared in 2020. Just as a refresher, under your code or city ordinance, the mayor can call for an emergency, and that's in place for 3 days, and if it's to go longer, it has to be ratified by the city council, which you did. In this instance, there was not a specific end date set at that point because the response was, well, the emergency was declared in response to the pandemic, and at that time, who knew, right? We didn't really know. And so there are a number of different things that are included here, but let me kind of cut to the chase. This would not end any state declaration that's in place, and so state rules, Minnesota Department of Health regulations and guidelines, CDC guidelines, none of those things are ended by your action. The primary impact, frankly, that this has is removes the ability for staff to do things outside of the purchasing policy that are outlined as a part of your code when an emergency is called. Not that we ever used any of those during this time, but it's probably good that it come to an end, and this is the mechanism that's necessary to bring it to an end. Since it was approved by resolution without an end date set, it's appropriate that you take action to determine that. This is written so that the end would be, well, today, if you approve it. Certainly, if you wanted to modify it and say July 1st or July 15th or whatever, you could certainly do that. But again, we haven't used these emergency powers as a part of this, and so it's appropriate that it come to an end. The information is included in your packet, as is a resolution on page 33.
Okay. Questions, comments? Yeah, I guess if we haven't used it by now, hopefully we won't have to use it, but that doesn't mean we can't redo it. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say we won't need it. Anyway, the resolution ending COVID-19 emergency declaration appears on page 33. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Ed'll second.
Any other comments or questions? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember Gary Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have the North 3rd Street, Center and McLeod Street from West St. Julian to 1,000 feet north. Project Construction Engineering. Pete.
Mayor Zeman and City Council, tonight we're here to ask you to authorize Bolton and Mink to provide construction services for the project as described by the mayor in the amount of $38,000. As you guys are aware, we have authorized Lawrence Construction to complete the work. They are planning to have a construction meeting after the 4th of July with work scheduled to begin around July 19th. We will need some staking from our engineer, some contract administration, and then overseeing staff as we monitor the project going forward. The amount that's specified here is the amount that we used as part of our engineering study in relation to assessments, so there will be no change from that. And the numbers going forward should be as proposed. There's a resolution on page 36, and I'm available for questions.
Questions for Mr. Moulton? This keeps up, Ed, I'm going to break your record.
Never know, I might have a speech.
Any questions? If not, the resolution authorizing construction services for North 3rd Street, Center to McLeod improvement from West St. Julian Street to 1,000 feet north, appears on page 36. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed'll make a motion to approve.
Emily will second.
Any other questions now? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember Gary Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. That concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports. 4th of July Parade, Sunday, I believe.
Yes, sir. If I could, I have a
Do you
couple
have
things to
details?
say about that.
Good,
So
because I didn't have anything else.
Well, the parade starts at 10, but some of the things that we want to mention will be in the hot sheet coming out on Wednesday. But this is some etiquette relative to the parade, and Barb always does a great job of having something in the hot sheet, and Ed will also have this in the chamber. But we want to mention or remind folks that the parade goes primarily through a residential area. And so we really appreciate when people are kind, knowing that the boulevard might be owned by the public, but not too far from that boulevard is a house, and somebody in that house probably takes care of that boulevard. So we'd hope that people would refrain from putting blankets or tarps or pieces of plastic down, days and days early. That really isn't necessary and can kill the grass in those areas very quickly and make homeowners in the city unhappy. So we'd really appreciate that. Also, staking down some of those things has some inherent danger because there are sometimes irrigation lines and electric lines and telephone lines and cable TV lines and all those things. And so if you hit one, that could disrupt service to folks. So we'd really appreciate it if people didn't do that. It's also important to remember that if you put out chairs too early and overnight they disappear, well, overnight they disappeared. We just can't control all of that as things move forward. So again, probably it's prudent not to be too early in setting out anything that you have of value. It's also important to remember that there is a significant portion of the route that's along public property. So right out here on Gorman Park, and the crews work really hard to make sure that the park is in great shape. And so if you put your blanket or your chair or whatever out a couple days early and we mow after that, we're picking that up and it's going away. That's just how it works when we're maintaining these properties. And that's the same for homeowners too. They might want to mow the day before the parade to make sure that it's great for their friends and relatives to come in and enjoy the parade with them. And so things sometimes move. So we want people to understand that. We also want to make sure that people work diligently to try and encourage their children to stay near the curb line and not go too far out in the street. That's a challenge sometimes with candy and swag that we all get at these types of things, but please keep track of kids as best as you can. And everyone, we really encourage people to clean up after themselves. The chamber ensures that there are a number of Kirby's garbage containers throughout the parade route. And so all those Tootsie Roll wrappers that you eat really quickly and then drop on the ground, if you can pick them up and put them in the garbage, that's fantastic. Traditionally, folks here, Mr. Mayor, do a very good job of picking up But we really want to thank folks for that and remind them that that's of great value to the community and certainly the property owners that are adjacent to the parade route. So that's kind of my tips for the parade, but 10 o'clock.
Okay. Also, for those in the parade, no throwing of candy from a moving vehicle.
Please don't.
Please.
Yep.
You can walk along, have someone walk alongside and whatever, but from a moving vehicle, it's very dangerous.
Yep. And we do have porta potties. There will be porta potties along the route as well. So
To
plenty of
throw.
opportunity.
Oh,
Not to
to
throw
throw.
those or
Okay, all right.
move those around, but to use if necessary.
All right. What else you have, Todd?
The next one that I have is an update on the city-county meeting that occurred last week, and so I yield the floor to Councilmember Carrie Johnson. She and I attended that, and that's a meeting that occurs every 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the schedule as it goes forward. Carrie, I don't know if you have anything that you'd like to add for that, or you just want me to kind of put things out there.
We didn't have anything too new on the agenda. We talked about Township Road 361 development updates. One agenda item that continues to roll over is the request for access to the cameras at the St. Julian site to monitor any illicit dumps. And so I don't know if there's any update on that, but they gave us an update on their search process for county administrator. It was a quick meeting, so we kind of ran through the agenda quickly.
If I can interject, this is the second meeting in a row where, at least from my perspective, it's felt like a much more collaborative, positive tone
Yes.
from the county. So feel good about that. That's great.
Okay.
I agree. It does feel like that.
Mr. Mayor, the next item that I have is town gown meeting recap, and I could not be there.
I could not either.
And so we have
there they
two
are.
people that were able to attend for us, and so they're coming up to help cover us, Mr. Mayor.
I met with the president of the college, President Bergman, about a month before that, something like that. Her and I had a meeting, so.
Yeah, President Bergman said you and Todd both talked to her during the interview process for the police chief, and those went very well. And so-
I did not talk, actually
Okay.
talked to her before that. so.
Okay, so she said that. So they had pretty good representation, President Bergman, the finance director, safety, and I think grounds were there.
Physical
So-
plan, yep.
Yeah, physical plan. So, what they came off from me was they were excited about the new police chief hire and being included in the process of the hire. They thought that was a good process, and they liked being involved. GAC summer camps are taking place this summer at 50% capacity, and they're doing okay that way with COVID. They will be back to normal classes in the fall. September 7th will be the first day of classes. They are requiring vaccinations for students and faculty with the goal of 90+% vaccine rate, which then puts the spread, if something breaks out, at a very minimal number. So that's why they're requiring it. They've come out, they've sent letters to students and parents and said that's what we're requiring to come back on campus. They're having, their freshman class isn't as high as it has been, but it is
High or large?
as large.
Okay.
As many kids as usual. They will be back. They said it's sustainable. They did see some drop off in the sophomore class. The kids that were freshmen, it just didn't work out. But that's pretty much, they said, across all schools right now. Those freshman kids had a tough time last year adapting to what's going on with COVID and everything else. Nobel Conference will take place this fall, but it's going to be a hybrid model. And they're still working that out and get details out. So not as many people coming to town, which is a little bit of a disappointment. And then they're working on details about sporting events, homecoming, and Christmas at Christ Chapel. So they'll be putting those out as they go, but they're having planning meetings on those to try and get us back to normal as best they can with everything. And now Pete will talk about the construction and projects with Gustavus.
Yeah, we really talked at length about the changes that are going on both within our community and within the Gustavus community. And it was nice to hear them talk about they're still planning to do some solar, still looking at west of Jefferson where their apartment complexes are. So still trying to work out details with their provider there on what they would like to do. They still are looking at doing more work with Lund Arena. They've got phase 1 funded and construction is underway. When they get to a portion of where they feel comfortable, they'll be working on phase 2 with raising funds and identifying a scope of work for that. So we look to see that as a very positive manner at Gustavus Building with the city. And then they're very appreciative of our relationship, not only with police, fire, public works, and the entire city operations. Talked about many ways that we can share services and talk about ways to be more efficient up there. And we again told them that we were very appreciative of what Gustavus brings to our community.
Okay. Questions of either Pete or Sally concerning this?
I have just one point of clarification, which is I don't believe faculty are required to have the COVID vaccine. I think all employees are strongly encouraged, but at this point, students are required, but employees are not required. Yep, strongly encouraged.
Okay. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next.
I just have one last one that I should have mentioned under 4th of July. Mr. Mayor and members, as you know, the Chamber makes a request for you for services, and included in that request this year was spraying for mosquitoes. So right now, it's probably a game time decision as to whether mosquitoes just only contact spray at Minnesota Square Park. And it's done, I'm sorry, I cannot say nor remember the name of the chemical application that's used, but it's certified for use in that kind of application. But it'll be a decision that the Chamber makes. We haven't had a lot of wet weather, and so the mosquito population is very, very, very low. But again, that's more of a game time decision for the Chamber to make as we get a little bit closer. I'm not sure what the last amount of rain has done in relation to concerns about that count.
Okay.
But wanted to make sure that people were aware of that. And that's done very, very early in the morning on the 4th. So,
All right.
that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add, or does anybody have any questions?
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Todd and Carrie, did the county indicate a timeline for their search?
Yes.
The search closes, application deadline, I should say, July 7th.
Yeah, I thought I read it somewhere in the paper, I believe it was.
So
July
they-
7th is when the application deadline is.
Yeah, they seem to indicate that they were hoping to potentially have someone in chair in later September. But it certainly depends on who they might hire and distance
Sure.
and all of those things. But that was the timeline that they discussed.
Thanks.
For people watching and wondering what we're talking about, it's for the county administrator. I don't know if that was ever
Oh,
said.
yeah, sorry.
For that. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Ed?
I don't know if anybody else was over there, but last Thursday afternoon, when they did the honor thing in the park to honor the young gentleman that got killed, it was an excellent turnout. I think we had 4 different cities with fire trucks here, some different honor guards, and it was a good crowd that
Good.
came out.
Good. Anyone else have anything to add or any questions about anything else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
It'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
29 minutes.
20, less than 30, Ed. Gotta have goals.
Now Gabby will be wondering why I'm home so.
Exactly.
Your meeting starts.